I'm Meg McCarthy. I will be hosting them and moderating the Q&A. What a beautiful film. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did, and it is my utmost honor to welcome the incredibly talented Academy Award nominee and star of Uproar, MINNIE DRIVer.
Thank you so much for coming. So lovely to see you all supporting this film. It's an important film for me to support and be in.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful, heartwarming, important, inspiring film, and we're all better for seeing it. And so thank you. So your prolific career includes so many beautifully complex characters. What was it about this role, this project in particular, that made for the perfect addition to your already incredible filmography?
It was I was, how old was I? I was 11 in 1981, and I remember the effects of apartheid. I don't remember the Springbok tour because I wasn't really into rugby. But these kinds of stories, we don't tell them enough. There aren't enough stories of Indigenous people, but also of the way in which, certainly as an English person, you know, it's referenced as the Crown in New Zealand. The English are known as the Crown. What we did there, what we didn't give back, it felt like an extraordinary opportunity to go and be part of a story that wasn't really mine to tell, but to get to go and be in New Zealand as well was truly life-changing. I will never ever forget the time that I spent there, the people that I met, the waves that I surfed, the songs that we sung, the music that we made. It was truly, truly magical. And Julian Dennison is one of the most special actors I've ever come across, ever. So yeah, that was the reason.
That was beautifully said. Thank you for sharing that. I always say that the best stories should create empathy and should educate. And I think that's exactly what this one does.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You don't get, there's not, it's hard to be part of meaningful things. You know, we're really just dressing up and entertaining people. So to be able to tell stories that do that educate in a way that isn't proselytizing or sort of pompous is really fantastic. It's a great credit to the filmmakers for being such good storytellers.
Absolutely. And also, I think that this film beautifully marries the dark and the light of life. When telling a story like this, why was it crucial to give space to the tears, to the laughter, to the trauma, to the joys, to all of it?
Because I think that's life, really. And those are always the films that I've liked best, the ones that can accommodate the sadness and the laughter, because they're the ones that are the most true. And really, if you can make people laugh and you can make them cry, I really think you've done a great job in a film. It's so easy to be melodramatic. It's so easy to just be comedic, but to marry the two. And Julian is a master of that. I mean, he really is. He's truly brilliant.
I mean, I was thinking, this film reminded me a little bit of The Hunt of the Wilder Beast and the Wilder People, excuse me. I always say that. And my husband even today was like, don't say wildebeest, you're gonna say wildebeest. And I remember watching it and feeling a similar sentiment of allowing myself to feel everything at once. And he really does give that gift to us.
Yeah.
And so do you.
Well, thank you.
Let's talk about Shirley. When we first meet her, she's, as she describes, her family's anchor. But through your nuanced performance, we also see a woman who's grieving, who's understandably guarded. But then comes the gift of Josh's audition tape. Oh my goodness, it breaks her wide open. I think it broke all of us open. And it reconnects her,
Yeah, that haka, so a haka is given. It's not created. That wasn't choreographed. That was given to us, to the film, and to him, and it was incredibly sacred and incredibly meaningful. And it is a language that I don't speak that language, but I can feel it in the same way that I think all of you did. And I honestly think it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen anyone perform. And they just played they actually had the only very bad idea that the directors had in the whole thing was to shoot my coverage before Julian had actually done the haka. They thought that it would be fine for me just to look at a blank TV screen and make it up. And I try not to be difficult. I did say to them, "You're nuts, and what you want is to switch the schedule around and wait till you've filmed Julian doing the haka, and then just turn the camera on and I'll do my thing, and you'll have what you need. I promise you, promise you, promise you." And they did, and it was right. It was right, because you don't have to do anything when you're watching something as profound and as beautiful, and it came from his soul, so it was very special to be part of that.
I'm so glad you said that and you spoke up, because I can't imagine it any other way. I mean, your performance in that moment is not even a performance, it's just you're reacting, and we're reacting with you, and it reconnects her to herself in a way that's so powerful. And then she even says to him, "I saw myself, it was half of me," and it was just such a beautiful gift. Can you talk about how in that moment too, she's able to then have that wonderful conversation with him in the car that allows her to find her strength and vulnerability again, allows her to start to bring those walls down?
I think when you've cast yourself as an anchor, when you're grieving desperately, missing what was, her whole reason for being in New Zealand was Peter, was their father, was this Maori man who's gone. And I think in trying to keep it all together, she forgot to really see her children and definitely to see herself. And I do think that the power of that haka and the power of her son finding that in himself is what in a way sort of brings her out of the trance of grief and of white knuckling it through life, as opposed to appreciating it, being present for it, being awake for it. And that's, again, it's a lovely part of the story, is that it's very gently given. It's not hammered home, but the idea of finally being able to see your children not as things that you have to take care of, but things that you need to bear witness to and know deeper.
Absolutely. I think to kind of speak about that, when it's kind of heartbreaking, because I also want to say too, I think what this movie does beautifully is show us that grief doesn't have a timeline, which I think that society has told us otherwise, and that's also the magic of storytelling. We get to see that. It's been 7 years since her husband has passed away, but you get the sense that she never allowed herself to have that grieving moment, because she had to go right in there and be in mom mode, be in survival mode. Can you talk a little bit about the dynamic earlier on in the film when Josh comes to her saying, I want to act, and her immediate instinct is like, no, but it's coming from a place of love.
Well, it's a ridiculous profession. I'm with Shirley. Absolutely stupid. I don't know why anyone would do it. You never let your children do it. I think you're coming out of that is the most unstable idea that a kid could have, to come and be an actor when there is this path that is apparently tried and tested. Be a rugby player, they will take care of you. These, awful people, but they will somehow protect you. So I understand that. I understand wanting to take the safest path. And I think it's a really beautiful journey to realise that sometimes you really just, you can't do that. You must choose a different path, no matter what you might potentially lose.
Yeah, and we have to allow our kids to discover themselves, even that's the hardest thing
Well, I
sometimes.
wouldn't go that far. No, of course we do.
Well, speaking of
Of course we
acting,
do.
you know, Josh really is empowered and he finds his voice through this newfound love for performing arts, which is another beautiful element to the film. Do you remember the first time that you felt empowered by your performance as an actor?
I do.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I was 14 and I was in a play at the school where my kid goes now as well. And I've been invited to be in the upper school, which is the high school. I was in the junior school and I was invited to be in the high school production. And I just had one scene, but it was a really good scene. And there was a lot of people there. There was like 600 people in this auditorium. And I remember I just sort of did my thing and they started laughing. And it was so easy to make them laugh because the scene was good and it was funny. And I remember leaving the stage after the scene and I was listening to them laughing and kind of realized this enormous power that was very easily come by and very fun.
Yeah.
And that seemed like, you know, that felt like I could pull that con forever. And I am.
You've been making this laugh ever since. And you're funny as hell in this movie too. I mean, your delivery, and she's
Well, that's
witty, she's
great.
dry.
That's also Rhys Darby, you know,
Mhm.
if you haven't seen Our Flag Means Death,
Yes.
I really highly recommend it. I stayed in New Zealand to do Our Flag Means Death after this movie because I loved it so much and just told Rhys that I loved the show and then he went and found me a part in it.
Yeah.
But he's magical and it was hard not to just want to be funny with him all the time.
Oh, well, it was a joy. It was a
He's
joy.
amazing,
Yeah.
He really is.
All right, well, let's open it up to the audience. Who has some questions for Minnie? Oh, your hand up went right up right away. Yep.
Hi.
How did you discover the script?
Well, it was just sent to my agent. People send things to my agent and then, you know, I like him enormously and he reads things knowing what I like, and then he sends me the things that I have to trust him enormously but it was just a submitted script, which is pretty cool, you know. Yeah, it was that simple.
Anybody else? Oh, go ahead.
Thank you for doing that movie and putting it on the map for us.